everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I'm your host, as always, Richard Tiemann, and this is the award-winning Fan Show. It is good to see you on this Tuesday evening. I know it's much, much later than we thought, and unfortunately this week does not stick to our regularly scheduled programming of the Fan Show. But then again, do we ever, really? Times, they are a-changing. Things are a little chaotic, but nonetheless, we are still the one show where everyone is a fan of something, and we have got something for every fan, especially if you are a fan of new things like the XFL. We've got XFL news for you. It was week 2, and I went 4-0 in my predictions for this week in the XFL. And I know, thank you. The applause is great. No photos, please. But it's one of those things where you have to really take into consideration what has happened one week and going into the next, and going with your gut at the end of the day. But I thought the product, although I didn't watch a lot of it, was much better. We'll talk about that in today's headlines. But also, we are episode 452 of these now, and it's later tonight because we had a Storm Nation fan club meeting this evening, and that was a really great thing to have happen as we get ready to have them elect their first 5 board members for the official Storm Nation fan club. And then there will not be an episode Thursday. Instead, there will be an episode on Friday, February 21st, because that is a very special day in the history of Fan Show. For those of you wondering, what is it? Is it an anniversary? Is it your birthday? The Fan Show's birthday, which I guess, so technically the Fan Show's birthday, but the Fan Show, the rebranding, I don't even know when I officially rebranded the show as the Fan Show. But I do know that it was sometime during the IFL regular season. We did our first ever live episode, and we continued to do live episodes, I think 3 or 4 nights a week. That was exhausting. I have a funny story to tell you on the next episode about the first time I ever went live for the Fan Show. But the show was originally called the Butt Fumble Podcast, or the Butt Fumble Show. It was supposed to be one of those funny sort of things. But then when I sought out the guy that did the Spokane Empire logo, Brian Gundlin, said, hey, can you make my logo look not so crappy? He said, sure. Are you still sticking with that name, though? He was worried that I was going to run into the problem of nobody was going to be lining up to be on the Butt Fumble Show, and I understood. So tried to figure it out. We came up with the Fan Show. The rest, as they say, is history. But no, the birth date of the podcast as a whole is September 10th. So we are in year 5. We're coming up on 5 years of IFL coverage. And so there is a very special day, a special anniversary this Friday the 21st. So that's when we will do our normally Thursday episode will be Friday, February 21st. So make sure that you are tuned in for that. Really, it's going to be a great time. I'm hoping to get one very special guest for that. But if not, we're still going to make it a great episode. I do have a great episode for you guys this evening with another great special guest. We are continuing the countdown to kickoff for the 2020 IFL season. Tonight, we talked to one of the players of the Spokane Shock. Some of you may know that they are back. They were the Empire for a couple years. Then they were nothing for a couple years. But they are back as the Shock. And it's a pretty big deal in the Pacific Northwest. As a former PNW native, I can attest to just how big of a deal this is. So we talked to defensive back Mike Green, who I know from his days in Carolina with the Cobras, and we had a great convo, so you will want to stick around for that. Hello, Matt. Hello, Kimberly. I see some of you are jumping in, joining me on the Facebook Live, which is available every Tuesday and Thursday, and this week, the case being Friday instead of Thursday, on Facebook.com/fanshow official. So with that, then, let's go ahead and get to our headlines for today, because we got a lot to talk about. So here we go with today's headlines. And headlines, of course, are brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. They want to help customize your world, and they really can do that because they can take your artwork, your logo, your image, whatever you want, and they can put it on just about everything. They can do t-shirts, they can do hats, beanies, socks, jerseys, polos, jackets, coats, vests, as far as the apparel goes. For promotional or maybe some marketing material, they can do trophies, they can do stress balls, they can do flyers, pamphlets, they can even do business cards. And then for if you have a trade show, they can do tablecloths, backdrops, and anything else that you might need for your event, occasion, and other. So hit them up. DynamiteEnterprises.com. I suggest checking out their Instagram. They continue to post more and more cool stuff on there. In fact, I was just talking to Ethan today. I inquired about needing some stuff for the upcoming season from him because I still want to keep that relationship strong. I still love his work, love what they do, happy to support him. So if you guys need anything, please, by all means, let him know that the Fan Show sent you. So visit DynamiteEnterprises.com. Hit up Ethan at DynamiteEnterprises.com. Or give them a follow on Instagram, Dynamite Enterprises, and you can probably message them through there as well. So we have our headlines, and while I get through those, I did want to go ahead and do something we haven't done in a while, and that is our question of the day. I think it's a pretty big one with the announcement that Drew Brees will be returning for the 2020 season. And that question is, who will Teddy Bridgewater sign with? I feel like this is the domino that needs to fall that not many people think need to fall because prior to Teddy Bridgewater becoming a free agent, because we weren't sure about Brees, right? If Brees retired, we're pretty sure that Teddy was going to stay put. He's not going to stay a backup to Drew Brees. As well as it worked out for them last year, it didn't quite work out so well for them last year because now there's a lot of teams that are in need of a quarterback, a younger quarterback at that. Now, he's not a spring chicken, obviously, but if you look around at the teams that are in need of a quarterback, you had Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers hitting the free agency market for the first time in their illustrious careers. But now Teddy Bridgewater really throws a wrench into that because if you're Tennessee, you have Mariota. Tannehill's going to become a free agent. Mariota will probably test free agency. Tom Brady has flirted with the idea of maybe coming to Tennessee, and you have Phillip Rivers out there. Now, I don't know if you're a better quarterback than Tannehill away from beating the Chiefs and going to the Super Bowl and then maybe winning the Super Bowl. But I do think that for the long haul, Teddy Bridgewater is a guy that you do not sign to a one-year contract. I think 3-year minimum is what a team is going to get him for. And I think, obviously, San Diego is going to look real hard at Teddy Bridgewater. Indianapolis probably going to look really hard at Teddy Bridgewater. Teams like Tennessee going to look really hard at Teddy Bridgewater, maybe even Tampa Bay. So this is the domino I think that needs to fall first before all the others fall into place. And I realize that this is probably the biggest free agency quarterback market of all time. And I have lived through Brett Favre, Peyton Manning being free agents, but Tom Brady, who alone would make this one of the biggest free agency quarterback markets of all time. Who's going to get Tom? But you have Phillip Rivers. You have Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, and Ryan Tannehill. It's just going to get crazy. I think this could ruin the draft class. Now, of course, Cincinnati is probably banking on the fact that if they get Joe Burrow, it's going to solve all their problems. Going to cure all their illnesses and subdue all their woes. So, look, Joe Burrow probably very highly likely to be the number one overall pick, to go to Cincinnati and they live maybe happily ever after. I don't know. But I think that with this free agency market and just seeing how the landscape has shifted as far as who the top teams are in the NFL, I think this is really going to change the game. Your thoughts? Where will he land? Is he the biggest domino that needs to fall? I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say about this. So that is the question of the day that we will start out with. Like I said, personally believe he is the domino that needs to fall. So that is the question of the day. Who will Teddy Bridgewater sign with? Now, as far as the rest of the headlines, Seahawks, breaking news about 2 hours ago, they have signed tight end Greg Olsen, formerly Carolina Panther tight end Greg Olsen, to a 1-year, $7 million deal. Now, this seems very familiar to when they made the trade for Jimmy Graham. And you can get a tight end like Greg Olsen, but if you do not use a tight end like Greg Olsen, it becomes very pointless to have him. And that's kind of what happened with Jimmy Graham. They got him and they didn't use him. We'll come back to that, though, in a second. Obviously, XFL final scores from week 2. New York, nothing. They get shut out by DC 27-0. And I did say that I thought DC was going to win that because their defense is still really solid. They've probably got the best defense in the league. Seattle gets one, 17-9 over Tampa Bay. Damn near 30,000 people in that stadium. Dallas 25 over LA 18. I knew the Wildcats were not that good. And then St. Louis 24, Houston 28 in the game of the week. At least in my opinion. Houston and DC right now are the teams to beat for obvious reasons. But man, that home crowd for Seattle, they said it would be ridiculous for them to get 30,000 in there and had 29 and some change, man. Good for them. Good for them, really. Go Dragons. And then Drew Brees, of course, as we mentioned earlier, returning for the 2020 season, most likely to the Saints. And then for robotics, BattleBots 2020 tickets are on sale now. And for music, we have the Super Bowl of all things rock and roll 10. And that is going, it's in the second round right now. And it's been a lot of fun so far. Only a couple of upsets, unless you count a 9 over an 8 as an upset. So remember to follow the Fan Show on Twitter to participate, to vote in that. And that is at Fan Show Official. We're going to post the next part of round 2 shortly after this episode. Let's see here. Mike says Tampa Bay. He's from Florida and would probably like to play close to home. I'm curious to see what the thought is on Bridgewater playing for a team like Tampa Bay, because before today I thought Rivers was going to go and play for Tampa Bay, and even maybe Tannehill, because the irony of him going to Tampa Bay, Winston still being there, and then Winston gets benched for Tannehill, just like Mariota got benched for Tannehill, I think would be just too good. Too good. But Teddy to Tampa Bay makes a lot of sense. They're a team that I think is ready to win and feels like if they had a competent quarterback that's not throwing as many interceptions as he is touchdowns, that they probably could have gone to the playoffs, maybe even had an upset or two. I don't know. Could they have beat Philadelphia? Good question. Could they have beat Minnesota? Possibly. Could they have beat New Orleans, Seattle, Green Bay, San Francisco? I don't know. But I do think that they are a team on the cusp of being a contender team. And I believe that getting over that hump starts with the quarterback. We will see what happens there. He also thinks, Mike Kreider, thinks that Tennessee will keep Tannehill. That's a tough one. If you're Tennessee and you watched your number 2 overall pick, Marcus Mariota, not really do anything. He had a couple of good seasons, but he can't stay healthy. He got benched for Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill and King Henry. If you're Tennessee, you got to keep Henry more than you have to keep Tannehill. All Tannehill did was hand off to Henry. So if you're Tennessee, you got to keep him. Quarterback, though, I don't know. You just have to have a guy that can game manage. But is that enough to get you over the hump that is the divisional round, championship round, and into the Super Bowl? Because as we saw when they faced Kansas City, who has their guy at quarterback, granted they have a very good team all around, all together, that's going to be where it's very tough. So for me, I think Tennessee, if they don't keep Tannehill, or even if they do, I think that they're a team that will end up drafting a quarterback probably at their spot in the draft right now. I think they'll get a guy that they can work with for a season or two. But I think that first and foremost, they got to keep Henry. As far as Tampa Bay, Bridgewater landing there is a very good pick. I could see Phillip Rivers ending up in Tampa Bay, so that's an interesting spot as well. The Tom Brady thing, that's a tough one, man. Is he going to go back to New England? I don't know. This is the one time that I really do not know where a guy might end up. Like I said, this is the craziest free agency that hasn't even started yet. It's absolutely insane. So Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers, Ryan Tannehill, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota. There was a whole list of who's the free agents right now. I retweeted it too. Let me see if I can find it here, because that had the list of all the quarterbacks. And I remember reading it thinking that like 9 out of the 10 listed, I was like, yeah. And then that 10th one, I was like, huh? Okay. So, here is the official list. They're scheduled to be free agents come March. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Dak Prescott, Ryan Tannehill, Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota, and Case Keenum. Terrible situation for Case Keenum, because if you even so much as take away the top 3, even the top 4 quarterbacks listed there, he probably ends up as a starter on another team somewhere. But man, that's a tough market for sure for a guy like Case Keenum. Marcus Mariota, man, I don't know where he goes. That's a tough call. But Tom Brady, Drew Brees, I think we can all bank that Drew Brees is going to go back to the Saints. Why would you leave? There's no tension there. There's no friction there. You've got a good thing going. But Rivers and Brady are the big question marks, but I still think that the domino that needs to fall that will help clear up everything is Teddy Bridgewater. I think Dak is probably going to end up staying in Dallas unless Dallas gets Tom Brady. That's the only move I see there. If Dallas doesn't get Tom Brady, they're going to stick with Dak, plain and simple. Mike says maybe Tennessee goes after Teddy. They could. It doesn't strike me as a good fit for him, but at the same time, what is a good fit for a team that you were building around Marcus Mariota, a mobile quarterback? Then Ryan Tannehill comes in and takes you to the AFC Championship game. And now it's kind of like the Vikings a few years ago all over again. They had 2-3 quarterbacks that easily could have been their guy, including Teddy Bridgewater, oddly enough, and they ended up signing Kirk Cousins. Like I feel that's 2020 Tennessee Titans is that is that Vikings team from a few seasons back. So that's funny to me. But the XFL week 2, I thought it was really good as far as the quality of product and the attendance. The scores were a little better except for New York. That's got to be tough to get shut out in week 2. But obviously, if Seattle has 30,000 in attendance, that's a really good look for the league, really good look for that market that's going to get a hockey team as well here shortly. But the quarterback play has been the target of a lot of criticism in week 2, and I don't blame them. When I watched the games closely week 1 and saw the highlights from week 2, I can point at the quarterback position and say, yeah, you guys need to do better. I mean, Cardale Jones is their star at the quarterback position, and okay, cool. The AAF had Johnny Manziel, and it didn't really save the day. So I think that if that's your star power at the quarterback position, you can probably go and start looking elsewhere for a quarterback. I mean, Tommy Armstrong is going to suit up for the Sioux Falls Storm here in a couple weeks when the training camp starts. And yet he could easily be XFL, even CFL level talent. So I think if you can sign a kicker from the NAL or the IFL, you better believe you can go and sign a quarterback, running back, wide receiver from the IFL, NAL as well. There's no excuse to not give those guys the same opportunity that you're giving a kicker. There's just not. There's not. So it's ridiculous to think that you have to have some star power if you're the XFL, when in reality you don't. The XFL does not have star power. They don't. They just have great ideas. They have a good product that they put out there, and they've got great markets to play in. Plain and simple. But if you can lower your standards at the kicker position and sign guys from the IFL and NAL, and I know that you're thinking that's not lowering your standards. I know it's not. In my opinion, that's not lowering your standards. These guys deserve a chance. But in the average fan's eye, it's scraping the bottom of the barrel, and that's insulting. But if you can do that for the kicking position, you can do that for quarterback, wide receiver, running back, pretty much every position out there. So I think, go and really evaluate guys at the IFL level. Seriously, there's very talented quarterbacks. Charles McCollum, very talented quarterback. He's going to suit up for the Spokane Shock this season. Brian Hicks, quarterback for the Oakland Panthers. Okay, these guys can go out there and perform very well in the game of football. Any level, any environment, outdoor, indoor, it doesn't matter. E.J. Hilliard of the Quad City Steamwheelers can go and play for the XFL. All right? And I will stake my reputation on it for whatever it's worth, but I'm just saying, like, in the indoor football community, I feel that I do have somewhat of a reputation, and I will stake that on the fact that I think these guys can outperform some of the quarterbacks that are in the XFL right now. All right, I said it. So week 3 is coming up. We'll have our preview Friday, and that should be good. I'm very excited. I think week 3 is when things will become even more clear. But I do, Matt McGloin getting benched after his interview, which I still hate. I hate those interviews. I really do. But him getting benched after saying that the whole offense needs to change its approach and its game plan, hilarious. It really was. You have that happen in the XFL. You have a quarterback speak his mind for one of those immediate interviews that they do at the XFL, and he gets benched. And then in the NFL, you have Mike Tomlin come on to First Take for ESPN and not only defend his quarterback, but call out ESPN on ESPN for saying that, it's he said thing, and they're reporting it very one-sided. This whole Myles Garrett thing is such a mess, but man, I have never had more respect for Mike Tomlin than I did after seeing that. I mean, that's a coach you want to play for. That is a coach that will have you wanting to run through not one, but 2 brick walls. Plain and simple. So go Mike Tomlin. Very happy about that. Seahawks and tight end Greg Olsen seems like a good fit, but I don't think I really don't think it's the guys that they have in the skill positions that was Seattle's problem. It comes down to Pete. It really does. Mike Walt has joined us. He says he thinks Teddy will join San Diego. Why San Diego? I think Tampa Bay would seem like a better fit for Teddy, especially with Bruce Arians being there. This is a young, talented quarterback, and you're a young, talented quarterback away from being a contender. San Diego's a mess, man. Like, they can't seem to really do anything right. If I'm Teddy, yeah, I have my price, but I think San Diego is a bit further down the list from the rest. So, Mike, I'm curious to know why you think San Diego would be a good fit for him, or if that's just who can actually offer him what he wants contract-wise. Maybe that's all it is. Greg Olsen, though, and the Seahawks, it's a good fit on paper, absolutely. But I don't think it is going to solve their problems. Their problems last year were the play calling, which is crazy because Bevel has been gone for a few seasons now. But I think the fans are really going to start questioning Pete Carroll if they have the same struggles that they did this year, next year. my thoughts. We could be seeing for the first time in his whole career with the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll's name on the hot seat. That's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. I see Joe has joined us. Jamie, Dustin, Adam, good to see you guys. Mike says, good running back, good defense, and willing to pay for the name. Okay, so they're not like a complete mess because they do have the personnel. They do have the tools to win, but they just don't win because I don't know if Anthony Lynn is their solution at head coach. I don't. But I do believe in giving a guy at least 3 years. We'll see. But McDermott up in Buffalo, man, did he really turn that franchise around. And he did it with a quarterback that you would have thought for sure was done. So Greg Olsen, Seahawks, good fit. Does it solve their problems? I don't know. XFL, great week 2. Problems at quarterback. They should probably start looking elsewhere for quarterbacks and not just elsewhere for kicking options. Congrats to Ernesto Lacayo of the Dragons for getting the W with Seattle over the weekend. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is the big domino that will need to fall before we start to really see how this free agency frenzy, that's exactly what it's going to be, will play out. Your thoughts, final thoughts here before we get to my interview with Mike Green from the Spokane Shock. Don't forget, IFL Kickoff is 28 days away. That's right. We are under the month mark for the season opener. Actually, I take that back. It's what is it? 24 days is what it actually is right now. I'll have to see where it is here. 18 days. Wow. I'm thinking Sioux Falls Storm because they start they start a week later. So 18 days. Wow. That's really close. 18 days until IFL 2020 kickoff. I think it's going to be great. I love getting to know the guys more. Mike says he would love to see Rivers with the Colts. That's an odd pairing. I think the toughest thing, Mike, and this will be the last thing I say before we get to the interview, and you can continue with your thoughts in the comments during the interview. Please, by all means, I encourage that. For those of you listening that want to know who I'm talking to, we are live on Facebook, facebook.com/fanshowofficial, as we do with every podcast recording. So they get everything live if you have liked the Facebook page before all of you guys get a chance to listen to it in podcast form on Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. So I think the problem with Rivers is that he's a guy that you're only going to sign for 1 year. So you really need to make sure that your team is equipped to go the distance that year, like from the word go. And I mean, we're not even talking, like you're not even worried about your backup quarterback at this point. Like you expect him to come in to be healthy for 16 games and to win you enough to either win the division or get a wild card and then make a deep run and then to the Super Bowl. Like that's the team that will sign Rivers. Is they're ready. All they need is their quarterback. I don't know if that's Indy. I really don't. He says they got a great line, a good defense, and he can reconnect with Reich. Very good point there. Winston says the OC in Indy was Rivers' former OC. So there is some connection there. I'll give you guys that. That's fair. I thought Tampa Bay would have been a good fit because Arians does great work with quarterbacks. I don't know how well he does with older guys like Rivers, but I think it could still work. Indy, though, that's an interesting fit. I think that could very well be. But is Indy only wanting to invest in a guy for 1 year? They've come from Manning to Luck and then Jacoby Brissett, who seemed like a viable replacement that just needed some work. So do you get Rivers for a year and hope that that's your year? That'd be a tough call for me. I do understand the connection there, though, guys. So thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and kick this over to my interview with Mike Green. So I hope you guys do enjoy it. It's a great conversation. In my mind, we had a lot of fun with this one. He's a great guy, and he's very excited to go and play for the Spokane Shock, who are returning to the world of indoor football for the first time in, 5 years now? That's crazy. So here we go. My convo with defensive back, Mr. Mike Green. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now will be making the journey up to Spokane, Washington to play for the Shock, and he's one of the best defensive backs I know. In fact, I thought he should have been defensive MVP of the 2018 NAL Championship. He is Mike Too Raw Green. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Not too many people know that middle name.
I wanted to give credit where it was due and give you a proper introduction. So I know that you guys have your nicknames and a lot of them given to you, and a lot of people know you guys for those nicknames. So if I'll throw it in there, I'll throw it in there. And now maybe it'll start to pick up some steam going into 2020.
Yeah, hopefully. But I mean, I do have a new nickname, in Greensboro, which they call me the General Green.
Oh.
And it's a crazy story behind it because, there's a statue of this guy named General Green, which is in Greensboro.
Yeah.
The battle of one of the battles that was here, he won. He's a big, known person around here, and they gave me that nickname, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fitting one. We'll have to see if you get another new one in Spokane, because they have players that they like to call Mr. Electric and the most electrifying man on the team. A lot of play on the Shock name. Have you ever played in or been to the Pacific Northwest or Spokane before?
Yes. When I was at Billings, we played there in 2016. And they kicked our ass. but we got them back. I think it was the second to the last game of that year in the regular season. We beat them.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember Billings came to Spokane, and that was a pretty bad game. And then they went on the road to Billings, and it was a fight, man. Like that was.
Yeah. That was a good game. It's always a pleasure playing against those guys. Charles Dowdell, Trevor Kennedy. Probably the best back that I ever played against in arena football.
Yeah, considering when you look back, when you realize that wasn't a Shock roster, how well it was assembled, though, and some of the stars that really emerged out of there. Like, I know that Dowdell, he's going to play in Indiana for a team in another league right now. But he was really good that season. Kennedy retired, but, man, he was like, I thought he was going to end
electrified.
Yeah, exactly, electrified. I thought he was going to be a guy to play for the AAF, XFL, CFL. And then you had that defense, man. That defense was just too damn good. Really was. So now you're going to be.
We got two of the players.
Yeah.
We got Squally and T.C. Robinson.
Yeah, those guys can bring it, man. So I'm glad to see that what I knew is the Spokane tradition of great defenses is going to continue with you, Squally, and TC, and whoever else you guys end up getting and keeping on the team. Because Billy, I know, he might be a former receiver, but he knows defense somehow. I don't know how he knows defense, but he does.
I mean, Billy is just a young-minded guy that's always trying to learn. I think that's one thing about Coach Billy that draws a lot of players to him. He's a young-minded coach. He gives the players, time to speak up. It's not like how can I say it, a dictatorship with Billy. You feel me? Like everybody has a say-so on a team. And I feel like with that comes, a great team, a great family. And I think that's why Billy's successful. He just knows a lot.
Yeah, I was wondering what your thoughts were on Billy as obviously a player of his, if you want to call it that. But, Billy's come from the Midwest, then over to the East Coast, and now he's going to go all the way to about as far as you can go on the West Coast without being Seattle, Portland, or one of the Bay Area cities in California. But considering where on the East Coast he was, that's pretty damn opposite. And he's doing it for him, and he's having to take his family with him because he believes in this team and what it's about. So what is it for you as a player that ultimately sells you on either following him or playing for Spokane?
I think it's just who he is as a person. You know, outside of football, man, Billy a great dude. He's fun. You know, he's caring. He's loving. He's gonna look out for you. He's gonna make sure you're straight. You know, as long as you do your part. You know, as long as you're loyal to him, he's gonna be loyal to you. And that's the same as his whole family. You know, from Lennox to Larkin to London to Stacy. Like, and once they know you and once they see that you're genuine and loyal, they're gonna be loyal to you and they're gonna do whatever. So, man, it's that simple. Just be loyal to Billy, he's loyal to you.
I agree, and you know, my time with Billy, I know that he's a guy that they call a coach of the players, and there's several of those at this level, but really, you know, there's only a handful that I would, you know, put my stamp of approval on as far as the players that I've talked to that have played for them, and even the ones that don't play for those coaches anymore, for them to still speak so highly of him. And I know that Billy just has kind of a lasting impact on a lot of talent, a lot of young talent, and guys that end up getting chances elsewhere. So it's good to hear that obviously somebody like you, hey, here, there, anywhere, doesn't matter. I'll follow you, you know, wherever you go, and we'll make an instant impact.
Oh yeah, always with Billy. Where Billy goes, I go.
Speaking of instant impact, you're really in a unique spot with Spokane. Now, this isn't unheard of, and it's not the first time that a team has gone on a hiatus and come back. But the way that it's been done, from AF2 to arena football and being champions at those level, and then all of a sudden IFL under a rebrand, and then a 2-year hiatus, and now coming back as that original brand, the Spokane Shock. The expectations, I don't want to say they're ridiculously high, but they're not low at all. So what does that mean to you as a player going up there?
I mean, once I figured out that they was bringing back the original name, right there, it showed that the expectations was going to be high. Like, it's just because, I mean, like you said, in the history, like, they won a championship in every league that they've been in, and even though with the new the rebrand that they did with the Empire, they went to the championship. What, their second year, right?
The first year, yeah, it was
first year. Matter of fact, yeah, the first year, and lost, which was good. And to be honest with you, they could have won it, but you know, Sioux Falls is a pretty tough team, and you got to be disciplined to beat them.
Yeah, there's a few teams in the league that I've said you have to almost play mistake-free football to beat them. And then on that side, you have to hope that they make a mistake or two. And I think Sioux Falls was that team for a while. Arizona is one of those teams. But I also know that Billy has coached teams that people feel that way against. I know Carolina and Jacksonville in the NAL were teams that you had to play mistake-free to beat them, or else hope that they beat themselves, which is essentially what it came down to. The losses I saw for Billy's Cobras were ones that you could put it that there was that moment in each game. It wasn't like a series of things. It was literally one thing that was the difference maker, the momentum shift. So now he's got a team, Spokane, the Shock. He's got the brand. He's got the community, the fans, which, I mean, there's no better comeback coach as far as a team making a return that needs to put that guy that's going to be their guy out there first and foremost than Billy back. So for him to assemble this roster and be in that city, I think is huge. And I definitely think that you guys are obviously going to be one of the toughest contenders out there. What is it about Billy and his culture in that locker room that will make guys want to run through brick walls for him?
I think it's just his mentality. His mentality is, you know, like on offense, it's fly shit only. You know, it's look pretty, like look good, play good. And now, you know, with the new generation now, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, like that's just to be able to bring players. We're gonna let them know. Like, we're gonna look good. and the rest is on you to play good. And that grabs him right there. But then when you meet a coach like Billy, he's very laid back. He's very, creative and just always trying to piggyback off other people and trying to learn, And I think when people come in and they feel like something is wrong, they can go and talk to Billy instead of Billy being like, nah, this is how I want to run, And I think that's what just do it for Billy and for players that want to come in.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it right there with, the whole Billy taking consideration and listening. So when it comes to him as a coach, it's less his way or the highway and more like, what do you guys think about it? Of course, to an extent, right?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah, definitely. Because, he's a smart guy. He studies his ass off just as well as the coaches he have around him. So, it's a lot that goes into Billy offense, and you have to learn it. And once you learn it, then you have a little bit of say-so. The successful you are in his offense, the more say-so you get. So it's pretty even on Billy's side, with the way he treats players.
How long have you played for Billy? How many seasons now?
So Wichita Falls, into it, Carolina. Yep, and it's about to be the fourth.
Wow, 4 years with Billy. So I got to ask you, when I talked to him, he said that there was a list now that he was back in the IFL and certain people were on it. What is this list and what does it mean to be on Billy's list?
The list. Yeah. Now, I don't really know too much about the list that you just brought it up, but just guessing, I think it's just teams that we beat and we expose feel like we're no competition. Like they still look down upon us, and he got him on the list to prove him wrong. And Billy's gonna let them know once we prove him wrong too. Like he's gonna gloat, he's gonna celebrate, he's gonna let you know. And I think that's another thing why players love him, because Billy gonna talk. He gonna talk his stuff.
Yeah, he will, won't he? As a defensive back, one of the toughest positions in football, just in general, but for you guys, you're in a different element because the receivers can use the wall to their advantage. Like, what has 4 years of playing indoor ball taught you about the game and how much appreciation you have for certain aspects of it?
After coming from outside and playing arena-style ball, my first year, I was like a deer in headlights for the first couple games because I was just like, golly, the ball coming out super fast. Like, these receivers, all they got to do is get in a good position and it's hard to play the ball. So, like, what I had to learn, the arena, the field of the arena, and, like, understand, like, where I was at. Like protecting the middle,
yeah,
and not hugging the wall, because in this small arena, the easiest middle of the field. So I had to teach myself to cover the middle, teach myself to gamble a lot more, because you got the middle linebacker to blitz when it's empty. It's man on man. So I know I can jump routes in certain scenarios, because I know that if my linebacker blitz, he's not going to be picked up. So the ball has to come out in a certain amount of time. So basically all I did was just study it and learn from the vets like Trevante Johnson, which is the leading interception guy in the IFL to this day still.
Yeah.
So, and that's really just learning, and then with experience.
What's the one thing that you're looking the most forward to for the 2020 season?
Well, I'm looking. The most important is the championship. Then the second would be to break the record, because I'm at 23 and I only played 3 seasons in the IFL.
Oh, wow.
So all I got to do is get 9, I think, or 8 or 9 to tie it.
Wow, so you're going to be playing extra hard this season. So that's going to be exciting football right there.
The studying that I've been doing has been crazy, like no other.
Yeah, have you been studying the game or the coordinator? Because Deion Sanders said that he would study coordinators because the players would come and go, but the coordinators always tended to be the same in their scheme and attack.
Yeah, no, I mean, the way I played the game, I think it's like a game of chess. It's like being patient. It's like controlling the pace of the game. And that's the thing I tried to do on defense. I tried to make sure everybody, my DBs, we all eliminate the big play. Don't give up the big play and be patient. Like, let the team get eager. Let the team get, try to let the opponent get into catch-up mode. Because, when opponents get in catch-up mode, that's when they're trying to do the deep balls. That's when they're getting a little bit more aggressive and not being more, conservative, throwing short routes.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned about arena ball. Like, you learn the quarterback, but you also learn that it's a certain time in a game where you can be aggressive and where you can just play the overthrows. And I think that's a lot of my interceptions came off from it just being patient. It's letting them play into my hand, letting them know that, I'm going to give up that route and I'm going to keep giving it up. But that one moment, you think I'm going to give it up, I'm going to jump it.
I'm excited to see that happen this season, man. There's going to be a lot of really good football to be played in the IFL this season.
Oh yes. The players that are going to new teams like Tyrell Pearson, one of my good friends, one of the top DBs in the IFL, going to Arizona, which just made them a lot better on defense.
Yep.
And then, Arizona, Tuscan, Arizona are going to be tough. I mean, they had a great first season, and they pretty much bringing all their guys back from Cam Gaddis, which is another dude I played with in Billings. That was a DB that I helped out.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a good DB battle this season for sure.
Well, man, I want to thank you very much for taking some time to be on here and talk some Spokane Shock preview football with me. And we're going to work on a nickname for you for Spokane, like maybe Shockmaster General. That might stick.
Hey, maybe we don't know. We're going to see on introduction on the first game that they call out the defense.
All right. Well, he is Mike, going to get a new nickname in Spokane, Green, and he is defensive back for the Spokane Shock. Thanks again, my friend. You have a good night.
You too, man. Appreciate for having me.
Absolutely. And one more big thank you to Mike Green of the Spokane Shock for taking the time here as we continue our countdown to IFL Kickoff 2020, 18 days away. Like, holy crap, I can feel it. I'm ready for top 10 highlights. I'm ready for interviews, for everything that comes with it, for being a part of a team and a franchise. Like, I couldn't be more excited about the 2020 season than I am right now. We just got to get there, right? We just got to get through 18 more days. I think 28 more days if you're a Sioux Falls Storm fan. But anyway, quick shout out goes to Mike Giorgetti for sending me the sticks, as he calls them. I call them a crutch for kicking. But it's got the he wrote the F.A.N show on it, and then he was kind enough to do a little signature right there. The Kickers Need Love 2 movement is actually going to seriously become a movement, and I'm very excited about it. And there will be more on that to come as we get closer and closer to the IFL season. So thank you to him for sending me those, because I am going to use them, and you guys will see. But also, make sure that you have liked, listened, loved, laughed, shared, subscribed, all that good stuff to the show. We're available on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course Spreaker. fanshow.com, which is where the podcast is available. Unless you are on Facebook and have given us a like, then you can catch the live broadcast, hear it before everybody else that is subscribed to the podcast, and you can even interact during the live stream. Then, of course, give us a follow on Twitter at FanShowOfficial and Instagram, The Fan Show. So remember, it's not official unless it's Fan Show Official, and we are officially out of here, Fan Nation. So remember, until next time, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.